All right, Brendan. Well, welcome today to the Amplify REI podcast show. This is meant for us to learn more about you, about your business, and about how you got into real estate, the success you're seeing, and maybe a few best practices you have to share along the way. So welcome. Thanks for being here, man.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, of course. So let's just hop right into it. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you got into investing. And so just tell me about your story, how you got into it, and what you've learned.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, I've always wanted to get into real estate ever since I was in high school. I always told myself, I wanted to flip a house or own a rental, or I just felt like it was a passion, but I didn't really know how to get into it. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I come from a construction background. I worked industrial construction for about the last 9 years. I worked my way up the ladder, and I was traveling. I have kids now, so I was away from my kids a lot, and I got to the point like, man, I need to do something. Mm-hmm. And now this was probably about 2 years ago where I was finally like, I have to do something different where I can be home with my kids. So I started listening to podcasts and reading books. I really started with the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I thought I wanted to do rentals. I thought that's where I was going to start. I'm like, okay, but I don't have any money. So
yeah, you got to have the little capital to get going on that.
Right. So even though, there's 100 books on how to get going with rentals without any money, it's a lot more difficult than the route I ended up taking. Uh-huh. So I came across wholesaling. I stumbled across it and was like, man, this is the gateway. This is the gateway into real estate.
This is the answer I was looking for. Okay.
I'm like, you really don't need a lot of capital to get into wholesaling. So that's what I told myself. I'm like, this is the ticket. And I stumbled across the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, and I read a Dan Merrill book, which, it had a lot of good information. But just from there, reading books, and I went into a mentor program, and then I just started, man. I just started doing it back February of last year is when I started. I was still working a full-time job.
Okay. Were you still doing construction at that point?
Yeah, I was working away from home. So a lot of it, but I was able to come home every weekend. So I was somewhat doing it virtually, but I would try to set appointments and stuff when I came home on the weekends.
Yeah, to go check out the properties and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So it just gradually went from there. It was really sloppy in the beginning. Like super sloppy, but I ended up landing a deal, and man, it just exploded from there.
Really? So what do you mean by sloppy? Just like had no idea you'd go see a home, you'd be like, what the crap am I looking at? Or was it more of just like, I have no idea how to put together a contract? What do you mean by sloppy?
Oh man, all of the above. It was like, you're so nervous when you go talk to these people. You're like, and you don't have any money. So you're telling them you can buy their house, which really, I did have money. I had proof of funds through hard money lenders, but in all honesty, to get a proof of funds letter, it's pretty easy.
Pretty simple, yeah.
You just ask for one.
Yeah, exactly.
You just ask for one and they'll give you one. But as far as sloppy goes, man, it was that I was scared to death. Scared to death to talk to these people, but I just did it.
Nice.
And I ended up, now I've quit my job. I do this full time now. So it's still, it's still not perfect at all. There's still things that are sloppy, but it's growing, from the time I've done my first deal to now, it's only been, 5 months.
Okay.
But I have a decent business going.
Yeah. Like there's quite a bit of exponential learning, probably even from getting from your first deal to where you are now. Even though it's been 5 months, I'm sure you've learned a ton as far as.
Well, it took me 8 months to actually get my.
Really? So what were you doing to find? Were you just driving for dollars, bandit signs, mailers? What were your kind of options?
I was definitely driving for dollars. I was driving for dollars, and I tried mailers in the beginning. And when I did the mailers, Was definitely afraid of the follow-up calls. So I didn't execute like I should have when it came to that. So I'm like, okay, I've absolutely blown my budget as far as
Yeah.
mailer. So I'm like, man, and I kind of went into a slump for a couple months where I really wasn't doing much. But every day I'm at work like, man, I got to get back into it. I got to do something. I'm like, how can I do this with all the information I already have, all my driving for dollar lists? I pulled some absentee owner lists and a couple other lists like that, just from the internet. And I'm like, how can I get back into this without spending a bunch of money on mailers? So I looked into cold calling. I got a script offline, and I literally started hand dialing. I would skip trace the list and start hand dialing the numbers. And that's how I got my first deal, was through a cold call that I skip trace and hand dialed.
Oh, really? Really? Yeah. So you were just dialing. Were you doing that for a while then, or how long were you just looking through these different processes until, I guess you probably called a lot. Did you have just a few appointments, or how did that go?
Yeah, I would call for 3 hours every day after work. I would call for 3 hours every day after work. That was
okay.
That was
so
my
thing.
Thing.
Like 5 to 8, or like 8 to 11 at night, or?
Yeah, it would be from 5 to 8. That was usually my time frame. Sometimes I would get off work a little bit earlier, and then I would start like as soon as I got off and just call for that 3 hours.
Just dialing. Okay.
And just like solid rejection.
Yeah.
For months. And I just kept saying, man, all these stories, all these success stories you hear of people doing this, they didn't give up. So I just kept doing it. And my first deal's funny, man. It's funny because it was so simple.
So what exactly happened? Like, you just call them up, hey, can I come see your house? And next thing you know, you got a home under contract?
Well, I call them up and I try to pre-qualify on the phone. But I call them up, and it was from a absentee owner that I cold called, and he was a landlord. So he had a property, didn't really need a lot of work, had like a brand new roof on it. And he tells me, we've never even thought about selling. It was his mother's house that he had inherited like years back. And they remodeled it themselves and were renting it. And they're like, we've never considered it, but if you want to email me an offer, you can, and we may think about it. So, I don't think a whole lot of it. I just mark it down that I'm going to send them an offer. When I get done calling, I look it up, see what I could offer them, send them an offer. Well, it was the wrong email. Came back rejected. So at that point in time, it was already too late. I tried to call him back the next day, no answer. So it was like a couple of days later, he finally calls me back and gives me the correct email. I send him the offer again, and he literally emails me back counter offers. I sent him an offer for $105,000. He counters offers at $107,000. I sent him a purchase agreement through DocuSign. We lock it up just like that. Man.
Wow, dude. It's just like, shoot it out there. We'll see what happens. And next thing you know, he's signing on the dotted line, huh?
Yeah, man, it was a laydown for sure.
Well, that's cool. I mean, but the reality is it wasn't, though, because, I mean, that one lead may have led to it, but you had tenacity. You were dialing, you were working for it. So give yourself a little bit of credit in a sense of you worked for it, right?
Yeah, it wasn't over there by any means. It was still rough after that to get it to my cash buyers.
Okay, so how did that look? So you got it under contract for 107. And
yeah, so
I assume probably 3-4 weeks you had it under contract to find a buyer.
Yeah, so I got an email. I created an email with pictures and everything. Because the next week he let me get in there and take pictures. So I get in there, it's a nice house, it doesn't really need a lot of work. It's normally the properties we deal with are rough.
Yeah.
This one was not that rough,
Okay.
It was not that rough at all. Like it could be rented right then, with nothing.
Yeah,
But
it's
to
kind of
sell it on the
turnkey.
market, yeah, and just to put it in perspective, to put it on the market to get top dollar, you could have honestly probably changed the countertops, and that would have been it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of tells you it was a nice house. But so I created an email with pictures and I put a cash buyer inspection date in that email, and I sent it out to all my cash buyers. At this point, I've built a list of about 100 cash buyers.
Really? Okay. So just like 100.
Yeah, not very many. But, first deal, I'm like, whatever, I'm going to send it out. I had it under contract at 107. I sent it out at 120, and I got nothing back, man. No bites, nobody interested whatsoever. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? So I started, well, after that, I actually lowered the price to, I think, 112, I believe I lowered it to. Like, I went down a lot.
Okay.
So I lowered it to like 112. I send it back out, and I have like one or two people email me, and I'm like, man, well, I had someone tell me, start hand dialing your cash buyers and talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally pick up the phone and I start calling every single one of my
back on the phone.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, I sent you this email. What do you think about it? And then if they would say no, they're not interested, I would try to ask why, to learn, okay, this is why they don't want it, or this is why this person doesn't want it, and take notes. Well, I ended up getting about 10 people to come to the inspection by doing
Nice.
that.
But you only got a few email responses back, so most of those came from dialing your list.
Yep. Yeah, definitely from dialing the list. And then I've learned that text blasts, if you can get your cash buyers' phone numbers, at text blasts is a good way to get them to open that email.
Okay.
But then from there, a lot of people were interested, that came. Probably 5 or 6 people out of the 10 were really interested. I ended up getting 4 offers. 2 of them kind of went into a bid war, and I ended up selling it. I made 14 grand on it.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you got it back up past the 120 where you originally were asking.
Yeah.
That's funny. So kind of what you learned through that was like, you just need to get people seeing it. And if you can get people seeing it,
you send them out, put it low, because you'll get everybody's attention. And I've done it many times since then. And it's proven, man. You put it out there low, they'll all come out, and it's like a Shark Tank. They bid against each other. It's awesome, but that's the way to do it.
Well, that's exciting. So that was after, you said, 8 months of like the switch flipped. You're like, I'm going to get into real estate. You start really diving in, reading, listening, consuming, and then you were dialing and doing lists, driving for dollars. 8 months. And you finally get that first one. What did that feel like? Was it just like the heavens have opened, or what was that feeling like?
Man, it was unreal. Like I didn't really believe it. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
when I closed on it and got that check, I'm like, okay, I can do this. and by that time, literally by that time, it's crazy because now I have all these follow-ups from all those calls from the 8 months where people didn't want to sell yet.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm starting to get more appointments, every day. And it's like, I actually have a pipeline. So now I have one deal, and then 3 weeks later I get another deal. And then, it just kind of, it's like a train, man. It starts real slow.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get that momentum, it's rolling. It's hard to stop.
That's exciting. I mean, so at that point, how long till you went full time?
Okay, so I closed on my first deal on November 9th of last year, and I quit my job on November 18th.
Oh, really? So you just got the one deal, and you're like, I'm all in. No more of this construction. The 14 grand will get me by till I can get my next deal. And since then, how many deals have you done in total?
I have done 7 deals, and I'm supposed to close my 8th deal on the 19th.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, it's been
that'll
cruising.
be my largest.
Okay, nice. So tell me about that one. So is it like pretty much closing? You have it all worked out?
Yeah, everything's I already have a cash buyer, earnest money deposit, closing date set. Now, the only reason it hasn't closed yet was because the seller needed the full 30 days to get out.
To move out. Okay. Cool. So
Yeah.
tell me about that. How did that work? How did you contact them? Just kind of give me the same rundown.
So that one was actually from one of you guys' leads.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool how it worked out because it was through follow-up. First, this guy, he was ready for me to come out to look at his house, but he tells me he was a texting guy. He didn't want
Yeah.
to talk on the phone, which is fine. So we're texting, and he's like, "Okay, come on out, check it out." Well, I had something come up, and I couldn't come that day. My wife is pregnant, and I don't remember, something happened where I could not go to it. So I
Yeah.
rescheduled for the next day, and he was like, "Hey, I changed my mind.
Oh,
I'm not gonna,
freak.
yeah, I'm not gonna sell my house anymore." And now I have been building rapport with this guy, texting him for a few days and just like talking to him, trying to get to know him. And he was kind of, at first he was like, 100K, don't waste your time coming out if you're not
Hmm.
going to give me 100K. And then he cancels, tell me he's going to rent his rooms out to some people.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But about every 2 or 3 days, I'm still throwing him a text message like, hey, hey, mister, how's it going? I just want to see how the renting was going, making sure everything was working out for you, see if I could help in any way. Just throw a
Yeah.
text like that
Just
out
super,
there.
yeah, super, super chill.
Yeah, and he's not writing me back. So about 2 weeks goes by, and he finally texts me back, and he says, "Hey, Brendan, I'm sorry I haven't replied to any of your text messages, but the renters, I left for a week, and they trashed the place, and I
Oh,
kicked them
man.
out." So I'm like, cool.
Here we go. Here we go.
Because I knew it was going to be a good deal.
Yeah.
He was still kind of stuck on that 100K. And I'm like, well, if the numbers work, if I can make it work, then it'll be a deal. And I knew I could make it work at 100K, but it would be pretty tight.
Hmm.
I go there, man, and I'm talking to this guy. I go there early. I get there early. I drive the neighborhood, and then I get in there. I talk to him, and instantly, when you get in there with a motivated seller, they try to get you on talking about the house instantly. But I'm like looking around the house. I'm like, okay, how can I connect with you about some of these things? And he has this big RV out back that you could tell was like old school, man. I don't know if he like built
Yeah.
it or whatever. But I told him, like, me and my wife were looking one day, we want to get a bus and rebuild it. We were thinking about that. And
Uh-huh.
man, I just like flipped the switch for him. He's like telling me all about this bus and how cool it is. That, I should put this motor in it and do this to it. And, we talked for a good hour or so about other stuff that has nothing to do with the house.
Hmm.
And then we get into talking about the house, and I'm kind of like, you're asking for 100, and by this time he's already warmed up. As soon as I said that 100K, you're looking to get 100K, he's like, well, I really wanted that. He's like, but I'm not sure if it's worth that. So I'm like, after seeing everything with the house, these are the things that I have to do to it, in order to get it up to market value. I said, what? I'm not saying I can offer this, but would you consider 80,000? And he kind of like, I just shut up. You know what I mean? I don't say anything.
Let him think. Let him
Yeah, and
think.
he's just like thinking and looking, and he's like, oh man, he's like, I don't know. And then I kind of start talking again about how the house is so big, he's ready to get out. He wants to take his bus up to North Carolina and live. So I just kind of start talking about that stuff again, and I'm like, so you're at 100, I'm at 80. I'm like, what can we do about that? I'm like, and he's kind of like, well, would you do 90? And I'm like, I went 85, and we ended up at 88.5
Okay.
between all the negotiating, but he was happy, man. He told me he was
Yeah.
happy with
He
what
was ready
happened.
to, yeah, he was ready to get out, and you provided a solution for him.
That's right. And I'm supposed to make $27,500 on that deal.
Nice, man. That's
Yep.
exciting. So let me ask you this, because when you talked about going into that first appointment, you were shaking in your boots, right?
Yes.
What was the difference going into this appointment compared to that first one?
Well, I've, met with a lot of people since then, but I've kind of prepared myself before I go. I try to have like a routine. Okay, I'm going to get there a little early, drive the neighborhood, and then I'm going to kind of talk myself through all these items that I want to bring up to this person, bring to their attention, things that I need to make sure I look at that I've been bitten in the butt before about. I
Mm-hmm.
just do like a little, a little process that gets me prepared to go in there. And I've gotten to where I've kind of enjoyed it. By this time, I've already talked to this person. I've already pre-qualified them. I already know a little bit about them. So
Yeah.
I go right in there. Maybe we already have something we've connected about. We talk about that, talk about stuff on the walls, whatever I can to get to know them. Like, there's a guy that I sold a piece of land to, and I stop by and see him sometimes, man. We hang out, you know what I mean? So
Okay.
I actually, get to know these people and they become friends. So that's the big difference is it's not about the house, you know what I mean? It's about
Yeah, it's about the relationship, right? More
yeah,
so than anything. The house is the commodity, but in order to acquire that, it's got to be built on a strong relationship. And I think you were extremely wise when you first got in there. I think most sellers, especially like what people are used to, is they're listing their home. They'll have open houses, right? People will come walk through, and then someone will give them an offer. But this is a completely different scenario. And in order for them to accept a discounted offer, there's got to be trust. There's got to be vulnerability. There's got to be that rapport built. Else, I think, you would have had no chance if you walked in, said, I need this, this, and that, and here's my offer. He would have been like, no chance. Do you think
right.
that's true?
Yeah, it's definitely true. Like, if you go in there and you're actually trying to provide a solution to their problem, like if you're really trying to do that, not just put on a show, it works out in both of your favors every time.
Yeah.
I've walked away from deals where I made no money, but I still provided a solution.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I felt just as good about it. So if you have that mindset, if you change your mindset to think like that and not so much worry about the money, worry about actually trying to help somebody, man, it makes a big difference.
The money will come, right? Yeah. As we
Right.
serve people first and we provide solutions for them first, the money will come. And I think you're starting to see that. So that's exciting. We're really happy for you. The sky's the limit. You're going to keep growing, keep exploding. So let me ask this last question. So if you were to tell yourself, a year ago, pretty much at this point, when you were just first thinking, okay, I need to get into real estate, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, it would really be, to keep going, because there was a time where I pretty much felt like I quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's that hump that all these first time investors and wholesalers go through. A lot of them never make it past that hump. Like, you've already done so much to get to that point. Don't stop, keep going, take action, imperfect action, just
Mm-hmm.
just keep doing it, and you'll learn enough along the way to make it happen. If you want it bad enough, you can make it happen.
Man, that's awesome. Well, I think that's fantastic advice. Brendan, thank you for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure. We're just excited to see you continue to grow and explode. And we're excited here at Amplify to be a part of that journey. And hopefully it's a long and successful relationship for both of us. So thanks for being on today, man.
Thank you, Brian. I look forward to it.
Okay. All right. I think the recording